Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Uprooted. I am Omotoke Adewale, marriage and family therapist, bringing you all the things faith and mental health on this amazing platform. Give yourself a hand clap for coming back on today and tuning into this episode. You're not going to be disappointed. And we have a very special guest today, someone who I'm going to say she's near and dear to my heart. Okay. When you talk about somebody who it just shows kindness to a stranger. Okay.
Oh
this is a person who has shown me so much kindness, especially on this like podcasting platform thing that I'm trying to do here. She was I feel like she's one of the first people that really was like, look, this is what I do. This is what helped me. Let me give it to you. Like somebody should really know. Like, Oby, like it means so much to me, just how much I'm over here giving an appreciation, but I have to do it. It means so much to me, just how much you've just been willing to like help me out. Like y'all, I've never met this lady in person. Like we met each other on social media. So never, I feel like never doubt that people can be kind, even if you don't know them, you know?
Absolutely.
There are a lot of good people out there, and she's one of them. I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Uprooted family, Uprooted community. I'm saying hi to us because I am us. I am a big fan of it. I'm an active listener and participant. So hello, folks. My name is Oby Chiapa, and the short form, it's a short form for Oby Chiapa. I'm Igbo Nigerian. I'm born in New York, grew up back home in Enugu. And I say that because it just shows everything I am is really because of both backgrounds and my upbringing. So that's something that I do not leave off the table whenever it is I'm having the conversation. I am a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a godmother, a friend, somebody's wife.
Okay.
You know, to be.
Yes.
I didn't need to be prayer. Somebody's mother to be. I didn't.
Yes.
But I'm a child of God. I'm a fan of God. I'm a fan of therapy. And so that's me in a nutshell. And for terms of professional background, I currently oversee a huge grant portfolio for an economic development corporation. And I recently founded, and I'm a host of a podcast called.
I was waiting. I was about to say you better let them know.
The On the Matter podcast, and
yes,
the Matter really the platform is a community of people who are doing the best we can just to actively pursue our goals. And my vision and my hope and my mission has always been to just to humanize success through authentic stories.
Yes.
I felt like at one point I was looking around social media and all I saw were the stories of I'm a millionaire today because I sold yesterday, or, there were stories of a lot of big shots like the Jeff Bezoses of the world and selling books online like 10, 20 years ago. And I just wanted to hear more stories of what that looked like in today's language. People who want more doing, what does it look like to actively pursue your goals? How can you create a space where we are sharing real stories in real times, the disappointments, the journey, and stuff like that. So that's really been my passion. And that's really, we started this thing and now we're trying to keep
Yes, y'all Make sure you
Sorry, continue.
Yes. Make sure you go and listen to On the Matter. Go and follow this lady. I'm going to have it in the description of this video because you will not be disappointed. And I love what you said about it's about people's journeys. Journey is so important. The journey is part of our story. The journey is part of our testimony. And no one is just arrived,
Yes. Yes. And just to tell you, I want to share this quick story, if you permit me.
Yeah.
The week before last, I had my niece and nephew. They're 10 and 11, going on 12. very competitive for their age. These are student athletes. They swim professionally or training professionally while they go to school. And, while they were here in New York, my brother took them to play basketball and go to the park with them and they play basketball. They will really dabble into any single sport or activity and really get into it. So they went a few times and my brother tried just to keep the excitement alive, told them if you win me, if both of you guys combined win me, we will give you $50 each. Right.
Ooh.
And because my brother said it, I had to back that up. So I'm like, yeah. So the day he actually went out to play with them, I went for an evening walk that day. And on my way back, my brother sent me a text message and he said, don't bring up the game. They lost and they're not taking it too well. Right.
Oh.
I still went to the ATM to get that cash, to get the $50 each.
Yeah.
But when he told me that, I was like, damn, I don't want to kill their spirit. But at the same time, I can't reward the fact that they didn't win.
Yes.
So what I ended up doing was speaking to both of them individually. And, I gave them $20 each. And I told them, don't tell anybody, don't tell your Uncle Uzo, but I do want to reward the effort, because I think effort, it could go either way, in the sense that if you don't incentivize effort and if you don't appreciate or encourage effort, that could easily diminish someone's hope.
Yeah.
And, even the drive to continue.
Yes.
But if you at least show effort, and it goes, into the whole risk reward, and, people have different theologies on that, but because I'm such a big advocate for the journeys and celebrate that process. I did that, and, they told their mom, and, my sister who was my very first interview on the podcast.
Yeah.
She said, wow, you really do embody what you are putting out on the podcast. And
wow,
the truth is that this is really what I believe. This is something I believe. These are principles. Everything I do on that platform is just an extension of me. That's that. So yeah, I'm very, very big on celebrating journey.
And celebrating every small step, right? And just because you're not 5 steps ahead, or I'm not where I want to be, we hear that all the time. Oh, well, fine, I have this, or I have this job, or I have this position, or I just attained this milestone, but I have these other ones that I haven't. But no, celebrate where you are right now.
Yes,
and also the effort that you're putting in. That's such a great point.
Absolutely.
Even if you didn't, meet that goal, what about the process it took you to get there? What lesson did you learn in that, even if it ended up being a disappointment, right? For your niece and nephew, even though they lost, the process of playing that game. So the process of, that was a good story. I like that.
Thank you. And I'm sorry it took too long, but
no, you're good. You're good. And Oby's right, y'all. She's had some really great interviews and I don't know if she calls it interviews, but conversations. With people. And it's I think what I really appreciate about it is the fact that everyone, I feel like for the most part, everyone that you've talked to, there's something very unique about their journey. They have a very unique perspective. And they don't come on there here I am, here's all the things that I've done. It's very humanized, like you said. And it feels like you're literally sitting in a coffee shop or, having just a conversation. And you're part of that conversation. That's why I like to watch the YouTube videos. I usually
Thank you. You're going to laugh when you hear these conversations that are coming up the next season are going to be a lot more funny, because again, I'm very transparent. I think one of the reasons why thank you so much for what you said about the conversations being humanized, because that's something that I'm very, very big on and something I pray about all the time. I didn't want staged conversations. I didn't want them packaged, right? I didn't this perfect representation of these people. They didn't want that for coming on. That's not why they come on. I'm very, very, very clear from the beginning about what I want.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I kind of set the stage by being open and transparent. The very first season where I come off with my own matter, which was of paying off those credit cards, and really taking people on a journey of like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I went to do. This, I did that, and being just as transparent, not just in those initial conversations, but also in the conversations I have with these people, really create the space for them to be just as vulnerable, and that really has been the blessing of it. I don't know what anyone is going to say before they come. I don't know what I'm going to share before I hit record, but by the grace of God, we hit record and then we just talk. And then before you know it, it's like, you hit end of the conversation. It's like, wow, that I needed this. So glory of God, it's only God. Only God.
Yes. And I love how you like acknowledge God, like in everything that you do. And I do want to ask you to like talk a little bit about like your journey in terms of like faith. Like, were you always this way? Because I noticed you do that a lot. Like, and just as we haven't even been talking for like, I don't know how many minutes. And you've talked about it's God. I pray about that. I just give the glory to God. When she's posted, like she literally is always, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I've just noticed that about you. And I've always wanted to ask you about that. Like, has it always been like that for you? Like, what's been your journey like with that?
So I grew up, I'm Catholic. I grew up in a very Catholic, very, very Catholic home. So, my mom, I grew up with my mom in England while my dad was here in the States. But my mom would wake us up. I have 5 siblings, so there's 6 of us.
Okay.
Would wake us up 4:00 in the morning. Everyone showers, get ready for school. We were for morning mass every single day.
Wow.
And Saturdays was like the day we sleep in. Sunday, get ready, like wake up early to go for the church service. And, we always prayed as a family. We prayed the rosary. And, I went for catechism classes and things like that. I did all the things of like, the typical things that you do as a child growing up in a strong or heavy religious background back home. But I can't say that I knew God, right? Growing up, I've said this on my podcast, but I spent my formative years in Nigeria. So from age 5 to 17, I was in Nigeria. I was with my mom. And you do that, it becomes kind of habitual, right? Wake up and pray. I would say my rosary. Sometimes I would be in tune with what I'm saying. And sometimes I'm just saying, Hail Mary, full of grace, like, because, we're saying it as a family. So in the prayers. But I'm not going to lie. It wasn't, I feel like I will always appreciate my mom and mommy, because, my mommy is my mommy baby, but I would always appreciate my mom because, that upbringing, that structure, put that in place that I know to default to God, right? When I moved here, I was in college, like, there was no one watching me or making sure I went to church, but it didn't feel well. It didn't feel right to eat without prayer. It didn't feel to start my day without prayer, right? It didn't feel right to wake up on a Sunday and not do anything. Even if I don't understand what is being said in church, I had to go to church. It didn't. So, eventually I found a church on campus. They said mass on campus. I participated in that. And then, with my career, you graduate back home with like lives, like
it lives. To be life in.
And to be honest, I when things happen, like with a career, like people see my resume now, people see me on LinkedIn. I'm like, wow, you're a vice president and you're so young and you're this and you're that. Like there's a famous a pastor that says this in Igbo, like, Una Maro can Sikwado. And it's like, you guys You don't know what it took.
No.
What I did. You don't know the sacrifice, the pain, the blood, sweat, and tears that it took.
Yeah.
To this point. And it is only by the grace of God, because you find just like, when I'm on my worst days, on my best days, you hear people in similar or worse situation, but somehow you find yourself coping better.
Yeah.
Doing better. And you think about it and it's like, you're not in a better position.
Yeah.
You're not better than anyone.
No. You could have been like them.
No. And it's only by the grace of God. So that foundation of waking up to shower, to go to church before we went to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to just the habitual practices that I felt the need, like when I wasn't doing it, I knew I was lacking.
Mm-hmm.
To actually be like becoming dependent on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, going back to 20, and I feel like I still am discovering God, because it wasn't, I never read the Bible on my own until last year, 2020.
Oh, wow.
The reason why is because like 2019, right? I wrote a list in January of 2019, right? I'm going to have a new job. I'm going to move to a new city. Do this. I'm, right? Remember, girl, if I show you that list, if I said I was going to have a new job, I feel like everything I wrote, what in January was the exact opposite. It's almost like,
man,
I said Jesus black and Jesus said white. Like that's how the reverse of everything was. Girl, laughful. It's just what you laughful. I had this amount in my savings. For the first time, I had credit card debt. Like,
wow.
Yo. And I was just like sitting down thinking about my life. I'm like, no. Something has to change.
This is not it.
This is not the life that God has for me. So I'm not kidding. True to form, I'm a project manager true to form. I project manage everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. What is wrong? Let's go back to this list. What is wrong? Okay, my finances are horrible. My relationship, I don't know. Last time I prayed, I don't know this. I don't know that. It's a project manage everything, right? I write out how I write out like a plan to pay off the debt, the credit card. I write off like, okay, what I'm going to do to start to put myself in a position for a better job. I write out like, okay, to get to know God. Like I've always said, I wanted to read the Bible. January is coming up. Like this is an opportunity to read the Bible cover to cover, find a Bible plan. And in doing that, you see, like reading the Bible on my own by myself, not to complete a course, not for any like prayer group or anything, but just taking out the time to understand, like to know God on my own. I got to experience God. It hit different. I got to experience God very differently.
Yeah.
And it's been such a blessing to, be able to do that and know that even when things go south and even when things are out of whack, like I know that I can default to the Bible because I know everything is in the Bible, right? I know that I've seen the stories to know like, okay, when Sarah was patiently waiting, like, Sarah was at this point where it's a dire need or like, if God is going to plant the dream, he's going to give you the equipment. So that's Nehemiah. And it's like, if I'm feeling depressed about a certain area of my life, like, okay, it's time for advancement. It's like, no, like, seek ye first the kingdom of God. And then it's like, when I feel like I'm on my lowest of low, like, I would know Job to like, Job said, though he slay me, like, I will still.
Yes.
These are.
Come on.
But
Pastor. Come on, Pastor.
No, please. I don't want to be struck down because I know the one I'm still carrying. Jesus probably looking like, who are you claiming to be right now? And I'm like, you know what, Jesus? You're not trying my own rights. And if you hear my prayers, you will laugh. Whenever it's my turn to pray, these people, my family, people crack up because my prayers, I just understanding that at the end of the day, God is my heavenly Father.
Yes, he understands you. They don't gotta understand you.
He understands me and he accepts me as I am. So
exactly.
I go to him as he's doing me. And I'm like, Jesus, are you here? And this, are you like, sometimes I read work emails, and I'm like, in this job.
Do you see this?
Are you here? This is happening to me. Go.
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And so, I call on God because that's all I've known. That's what that
was planted in you.
That was planted in me before I took the psychology classes that told me so about, mental health. And, before understanding mental health or the different ways you can approach it, or, why, like therapy, and then being a beneficiary of therapy and, now an advocate for it. But before all that, I've known God of the upbringing I had. So that it's been for me.
Yeah. And the word that kept coming to my mind was discipline, right? The discipline and the structure that was instilled in you. And even though you were away from the environment, it still like went along with you. And sometimes the opposite is true for a lot of people. Like the truth is that we're usually a product of our environment, right?
Absolutely.
And whatever is instilled in us is usually what we replicate. And sometimes some of those things are positive. I think what you just explained is a great example of how there can be positive generational transmissions, right? Typically we talk about the toxic, my family, we have all these, negative patterns and I'm trying to break these generational curses. But there's also generational blessings, that our parents passed down to us. And I think what you just explained is a great example of that,
Absolutely.
Because it's not always so negative all the time, right?
Yeah. And I do want to highlight that. I think we should. I love that you said that. And I think that should be highlighted that, we should really start to acknowledge the blessings that we did get from our parents, out there, because again, to your point, people are very, very quick to like, I'm aggressive. I got it from my dad. Or I got it from my mom. And my mom did that. But, like there are great things, we are not all bad, right?
Yeah.
They are like, attributes to ourselves that, a lot of times we tend to take the credit for as humans. And no, it's the grace of God.
Yeah.
God gave you the parents you have that made you. So I do like that you said that. And I will be more intentional to like make sure I put that out there and like really give my parents their flowers, because
you should, girl, give them their flowers. And I always like to tell people that I talk to, like, as far as like therapy and clients, like, parents do the best they can. It's not an excuse. It's not to say that, everything they've done is perfect. There are some parents that are very toxic, that are, that haven't, done such a great job, and then instill some trauma, into their children, but they literally do the best that they can. That doesn't mean that best is always good. They literally do what they're able to do. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's not the best, but it is what they're able to do. And, they're also a product of how they were raised. And it just gets, replicated and passed down until, someone kind of acknowledges and be aware and change that cycle. It's just going to continue. Right.
I like that a lot.
Both can be true. So you mentioned therapy earlier, that you're an advocate for therapy. I heard that. Mental health. Okay. How did you get there? What's been your journey in terms of like mental wellness, mental health?
So I studied psychology in school, right? My undergrad is in psychology and sociology. And, just from Psychology 101, like hearing that psychology is the study of mind and behavior, like that piqued my interest, like immediately, like there's a way to study mind and behavior, like sign me up. But it was in undergrad, taking the classes as I advanced throughout. And then at one point, I started undergrad on a pre-med track, right? So I was a psychology major, but pre-med.
Oh,
be a doctor more than anything in the world.
You were gonna be a doctor? Okay, girl. You're really evil. You're really Nigerian. Yeah. That's our only option. Doctor, nurse, engineer, lawyer.
So let me tell you this, right? I have so much admiration for my childhood pediatrician. Again, I grew up in Enugu, and my childhood pediatrician, Dr. Ogoni, is one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I just appreciated how I was always sick. I always had malaria. I was so sick growing up that the nurses, everyone in that clinic knew me, that when I would go back to I'm like, oh, Oby, you back. That's how I was all the time growing up. But, regardless of what happened, like, my, our family pediatrician was on the matter, like, super smart. And I just had so much admiration for him that I wanted to be able to do that for people. I've always, and that was such an avenue for me to be able to help and be able to be of service to people. And so when I moved here, I knew right off the bat, I wanted to go to med school. And I was blessed to have the opportunity where that's my same older sister had worked at a very prestigious medical, a very prestigious hospital. So NYU Medical at the time, she worked in the office of admission for med students.
Oh.
Residencies. So she got me an internship and I was able to shadow.
What?
Assistants. Yes. She got me.
Okay.
And I was able to shadow physician assistants and like doctors and surgeons for like a couple of weeks that December period. And I hated being in hospitals. Like I
was waiting for where the shoe dropped. I was like, okay,
I hated hospitals with my whole life and soul. Let me tell you, I'm a very being. I would go there. I would watch these people give people their diagnosis. And I would just like, excuse me, and go inside and start crying. You see what I can't even this one back to back. I'm not kidding.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so the semester after that, I signed up for all these classes. I was miserable taking these classes. At the time, it's like there was that excitement of that, like, oh, I'm gonna be a doctor. Being in that space didn't feel good. It's like, my parents. I didn't tell my parents I'm going to do it. So how we I hit a level of depression, right? I was just so sad. I was crying all the time. One of my friends suggested that I see the on-campus medical health professional, the mental health, our on-campus therapist. And, this lady, I had like, she would talk, she was like, this is pressure. And, like if you're in it, like this is a conflict. And she was breaking down all of the theories and everything that I was reading in class. Because remember, I was a psych major.
You were taking it,
I was experiencing that, and she was articulating that. She was that translation for me to see and hear what I was like. She was articulating. She was saying, like, remember when you read about depression, you don't want to get out of it, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 6, like you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want this. You want, this is what's bringing that on. This is pressure, society. And at the time I had started to take sociology 101.
Oh.
So it was a conflict because I remember at the time, psychology teaches you that, everything, you learn about behavior. So everything is from within, but sociology is the opposite of society. So I had the one argument I've had with one of my closest friends was coming from a psychological standpoint, where she came from a sociological standpoint. And so I had this conversation before I took the class, and then taking the class and then going through my the depression I was feeling at the time, and having this therapist, really tell me like, this is exactly what you're experiencing. And this is an internal conflict from the societal pressures, and your body, like your mind is not happy. And it was such a moment to be able to get past that, finally have the conversation with my parents, like, I don't want to go to med school. And we're both fine. Like my parents are bae. Like I love my parents. I'm a mommy and daddy's girl. I love sisters, and like I love my family with everything. Like I'm one of those people. I'm like Princess Poppy. I love people,
Yeah.
But like they've never wanted me to be anything but happy. Like if this is making you miserable, like please, I'd rather have you alive and happy than a different story. So the pressures were on me. And then fast forward, I'm in my career, again, tumultuous times. And, there's a lot of like workplace, trauma, because, we don't talk about workplace trauma. And then yourself reacting, responding to things, and like, and my personal life at the time, like I was just taking things out. Like I wasn't handling myself and my emotions well. Just understanding like, okay, I need to try therapy again. And it took a few trial and error, but eventually I found like my therapist, who was just very amazing, and just started having conversations and really starting to unpack a lot of the things that I didn't understand, like triggers, like, understanding what triggers are, what were my triggers, why my triggers were my triggers, right? And when you said on your podcast that like, triggers are teachers, a lot of times, popular culture teaches you to avoid your triggers because it's it's bad and something you react to certain situations, take yourself out of it. But when you said that, like it really resonated, because the truth is that triggers are not things that you necessarily have to avoid, because the truth is that until you deal with something, it would always have power over you.
Exactly.
And when you said it on your podcast, like, triggers are teachers. And it's like, wow, like, understanding like, okay, my path is ugly. I didn't deal with things. I brushed things off, and I'm like, God, please, God, please, God, please. And as long as I could wake up and like do the next thing, it's like, okay, that's great. I'm moving, but I wasn't moving. I wasn't dealing with anything. I was just moving. I wasn't moving correctly. I wasn't moving confidently. I wasn't okay. Thankfully, therapy, I was already actively seeing a therapy when I had like my meltdown at 2019, like, okay, all this is like, these are all the goals I had. And now my life is the opposite of that. So like, working with her to like get my mind right and like understand like, okay, how do I figure myself out? Because one of the things that I know that therapy has done for me is to look within, right? And be accountable, take responsibility, right? I can point fingers at every single person. I can be walking to the train on my way to work and tell you that I saw someone who, when I smiled, the person rolled his eyes and that affected me and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, okay, why did I let that affect me past the next stop? Like, why chalk it up to like, okay, maybe I wasn't in my best self start. Like, therapy made me look at myself, right? Did you like how you looked in the morning? Did you drink water before you left? Like, did you need coffee? Did you spend all night watching Chinese dramas that you didn't get? And that's why you're cranky? And that's what therapy does. It makes you look within.
It's a mirror. It's a mirror.
It is a mirror.
Good therapy is it's going to be a mirror. Like, and a lot of people think that, therapy, like therapists, we have such an easy job. You're just sitting there. You're just listening. Anybody can be a therapist. All you're doing is venting.
Let me tell you, no. And let me tell to anyone who thinks that, right? Because I've had to, again, I've had in all of the benefits I've received from therapy, I've tried to put it out there as to why people should participate.
Yeah.
Again, most of the people in my life are Nigerian, Nigerian, American, Europeans, but, of that Nigerian background or Indian and stuff like that were minorities. And, in having these conversations, that's like, well, therapists just, they don't really do anything. They just listen to you. So you keep coming back. And I'm like, my therapist has nothing to gain from seeing me. Like this woman, and I had to break it. I had to tell them, like, I tell this story. I remember when I was still looking for a therapist, and I remember that one of the therapists that said she couldn't take me on as a patient after our initial conversation. And I'm like, I was
the rejection.
I'm like, oh dear.
But did she tell you why? She tells you why though, right?
She didn't say. She was just like, just giving what you need and stuff. Like she was just like, I don't think it's the right fit.
That's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, because that's what people also have to understand, that like therapist and client relationship has to fit. Like she can be a good therapist and Oby's a good person, but it doesn't work. Kind of like, when you date people, like they're a good person, you're a good person, but it's not compatible. The same, because it's a really powerful relationship. The therapeutic.
Before that moment, I didn't know a therapist could reject. And I'm saying this with my Nigerian accent because I want you people to understand. Before that happened, I didn't know a therapist could say no to something. One of those, like, because I thought, it's all, in my mind, it's like, it's business. Even I, at the back of somewhere, I too kind of had that preconceived notion, like, okay, as long as I could find someone who listened to me, like, the person is set. But that I'm very, very, I always share that story because, again, they have nothing to gain. My therapist, the reason why we've had it's been such a great experience for me is because I am, again, I can be transparent. I can be vulnerable. I'm in a space. I'm in a safe space with someone who who's completely objective and has nothing to gain and nothing to lose by me being in their space. And what I love was it was a lot of work initially, right? So it was a lot of work. So the weekly, sometimes bi-weekly conversations and, meetings. But I'm at a point where now I check in with her once every few months, right? And it feels good to be at that point where it's like, okay, Oby, like you're doing good. This is a great, you're in a good space, or this is okay. Have someone check you, objectively check you. And I do want people to understand that these are the facts. Nobody wants to keep you coming back for years. In some cases, it does take a while to get to the root of your issue.
Yeah, it does.
I'm always very candid with my people when they have those conversations. Like, I've been seeing someone for the same thing for 10 years. And I'm like, why? Like, because again, if you get what you put in, right?
Exactly.
When my therapist tells me to go back and make a list, I'm making 10 lists and I'm bringing it back to her. If she tells me to read a book,
she told
me to read books by Brene Brown and talk about shame and things like, and doing the work, because I wanted to feel better, to get better. And I wasn't going to do that by dilly-dallying or delaying the process, or I was playing myself.
Yeah. And you wasting your time and money. That's what people don't understand. You have to do the work. Therapy is work.
I told you people that I have a platform that I'm growing. This podcast that is not going to grow itself. I told you people I have a full-time job.
Yes.
I'm a human being, like in the sense that many places I have to show up for different people. Yeah. I cannot afford to waste time or money.
No.
In order for me to do better, I have to be there. I have to show up. I have to do the work. I can't avoid the work because it's only going to the gym every, or going to the gym and then undoing it with all of the unnecessary calories and stuff like that. Like, things have to go hand in hand, or go to the gym to sit down and like look at people. Like, if you're not being honest, if you're not doing the work, like, the story to put out there, like, the dirtiness, like, as filthy as you think your life is, they've heard worse.
So we've heard it all. We hear
exactly.
it all.
So it's like, I can go there and try to be the best version of myself. And if I needed to do that, I'll talk to my parents, right? But I needed to be for therapy to work, understanding that I needed to be the ugliest, filthiest, most authentic version of myself in order for me to benefit. And I was in a safe space in order to, I was in a safe space that I was able to do so. Not. And the quicker you have those conversations, the quicker you can start the healing.
Yes. It's an investment. Therapy is self-investment, right? And it's beyond just like venting and talking. I just love that you shared like your experience with therapy, because I feel like sometimes when we as therapists share our experience, it's kind of like, first is why you're in therapy, you're a therapist. So then people don't take it as seriously, or
let me tell you the why.
Yeah.
Again, as a Nigerian American who grew up in Nigeria and has a very strong sense of home back home, I remember the reactions. Even to this day, the reactions I get when I tell Nigerians, like, that I've been in therapy, it's like, hi, is it that bad? Hi.
Don't you have God?
Don't you have God? Kai, like Oby Chiapa, like you much. Saying things like, oh, you're too, like, like this girl, you're just an American, like those things. And the truth is that it's from a place of I don't want to use the word, but I don't have a better word to use it, from a place of ignorance, because it is are very quick to jump to those conclusions. But what I've tried to do is, again, being very honest with my truth, having the conversations. I hadn't had a therapy session in months. 2 weeks ago, I, reached out to my therapist because I wanted her to check me on something, and she did. And, having those conversations with the people in my life to be like, I had a conversation with my therapist today, and it's like, oh, I didn't know you were still in therapy. I'm like, well, I will always have my therapist, but seeing her weekly or biweekly as I did before, because I don't really have to. She is available, thankfully, for me to check in with, because that's where I'm at now, and I appreciate that. So
yeah,
in educating and telling people, again, your truth, your experiences, I think that would help. It will continue to help debunk a lot of the stigmas around.
Yeah, especially in our community, especially in the Black community. I just say Black because we're all African diaspora, right?
Yes.
So all of us, we have this thing when it comes to therapy and mental health. And then when you now add faith into it, oh man, it just makes the whole thing is like, oh, you really don't need therapy. You have God. We don't talk about our family problems. There's just all these myths. And I think we are getting to a place where more people are talking about mental health, which I really, really am appreciative of. But we have a long way to go, especially when it also comes to faith. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was one of what piqued my interest was when you reached out and just told me about what your podcast was about, really trying to create awareness and like really trying to, the biggest contradiction in my experience about therapy has always been, why have a therapist when you have God, right? And the fact that you were really trying to connect the two, and how you're intentional in your conversations, really bringing up your experiences as a Christian and how it relates to your role as a therapist, and a marriage and family counselor, has been, that resonated with me immediately. I've referred a number of people to your podcast to say like, hey, like these are like this, listen to an expert telling you as a Christian, oh, does she know? But I said, no, she will tell you she participates in her church. She's a mental health counselor. So she's bringing both perspectives and showing you the synergies, because the presence of one doesn't mean the absence of another. And
exactly.
And something that Dr. Claudia Marshall, who came on my podcast to talk about imposter syndrome, said, like,
that was a good episode. Thank you for that plug. That was a good episode. Go ahead.
I think. Thank you. But what I appreciate what she said that I really appreciated was she was like, you have you have a doctor. You have a
teacher.
If
we don't need all of the resources that God has given us, pretty much just saying, I don't need it. God, why do I need to go to school?
Yes.
I have you. Exactly. Teach me everything. Why do I need a doctor? Just heal me as I am.
So yes, I appreciate your space and everything you do to create awareness. And these conversations are becoming more rampant now. And, I don't know if rampant is the word, but, we're having them more frequent now.
Yeah.
Kind of this associated with like bad stuff. But, we're having the conversations now and we just have to keep the conversations going. And really start to institute those, incorporate those conversations into our daily conversations, and really just do our best. Of a conversation I just had on the podcast, because I haven't released it yet, but I did speak with a Black male therapist.
I was telling one of my friends who's also a Black. They are unicorns, just so y'all know that.
Okay? Yo, that's why I had to say a Black male therapist.
Yeah, because the black therapists in general, there's like a really low percentage of them. I think it's like 7% or something really low like that. But then males is even lower because the field of therapy is mostly women.
Yes. Yes.
So if you find a Black male therapist, I'm not trying to exaggerate, but they're pretty much unicorns.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. But something he said that really resonated was going back to, something I even explained without even thinking about. But a lot of the culture is like, okay, a lot of the habits or like, my relationship with God started as habitual doings, things I did growing up with my mom because she instituted that. So till we get to a point where we're incorporating conversations about mental health and from a young age and incorporating that into how we're raising our kids and asking better questions and things like that, it's going to be the same. But hopefully in these conversations, people understand the importance of, of incorporating mental health practices in addition to, the regular, biannual cleanings for your teeth or checkups with your doctor, your physical doctor, your physician and stuff like that. And, your hair and whatever grooming appointments you make. So hopefully as we grow, as we know better, we will continue to do better. And I'm optimistic about that.
Yes, me too. It's definitely maintenance. So you mentioned earlier, I want you to talk a little bit about this. You mentioned earlier about workplace trauma. Which is something, like you said, that we don't talk much about. And it sounds like you have some experience in terms of dealing with that and kind of working through it, or maybe you're still working through it. I don't know. But what would you say helped you in terms of dealing, especially because of I'm just going to put it out there, because of your position as a Black woman in a leadership position, that in itself
a leader
can be very challenging, right? Talk less of there's so many factors into it, like imposter syndrome, than just the day-to-day things, right? What tips would you have, for anyone who might be dealing, with that, some workplace stuff?
Find a mentor. My mentors are the best thing to happen to me. I have a million mentors and mentor for every. I'm not trying to be funny. I have a mentor for every.
Wow.
I've been very fortunate to find mentors within the organizations I've worked in. Really been objective sounding boards to check me on things, to encourage me, to hold my head up when I'm crying because it's a lot. I am in a very white dominated field, right? It started off within this organization, I started off as a project manager. And I remember the first time I went into a field visit, like when I walked into the construction field office, the person there just saw me. I was like, oh yeah, can you make us coffee? And because I am who I am, I started making coffee for everybody. You want cream or sugar?
Oh, but you started making coffee.
I am that person, right? I had been emailing for a while. I'm not kidding. And talk about trauma, right?
Wow.
Emailing back and forth. I started project manager, introduced myself via emails. These are the reports I need, going back and forth. So when I came to the trailer, like, it's so funny. Oh yeah, you must be from blah, 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 blah. Coffee's over there. Can you make coffee for everyone? And again, because I am who I am, I don't know. I think it's the pettiness. Like, I am who I am. I start making coffee with a smile. Cream or sugar? How many creams? It wasn't until my counterparts within my agency came and I was like, oh, Oby, you're here already. And then it's like, you're Oby.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Like, oh, I didn't know. I was expecting, and this is before the days of like LinkedIn where you'd be on calls or you get things and you can look people up.
Yeah.
LinkedIn existed, but I feel like LinkedIn is used now. Like, I would have a conference call with people and then I would go on LinkedIn and see that 20 people viewed my profile. Like, I feel like people actively use it now than they did 7+ years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember like this, like, I thought you were a man. I thought you were a man. And like, for me, that was a compliment. If my output was just as great, what you will qualify as a man or associate as a man, like, so, it did mess with me because you notice a shift. Because once they see I'm 5'4", once you see once you see it changes, like, oh, okay, I don't need, and then you enforce things. I have mentors. I have mentors that like, who affirmed me when I didn't know who I was, right?
Yeah.
Who encouraged me, who told me to challenge the status quo. I showed up every day because regardless of how people received me, I had to make sure I put my best feet forward. And you're never going to associate me with bad work. So I made sure that regardless of how I was feeling, my work product will be stellar. Like, don't come for me. Talk to your peers. Like, talk to your peers to see if this is something that's normal. Talk about, like, speak to your HR. Hopefully there are more diversity and inclusion people. I know there was a big uproar for that last year, and that's completely done now.
And don't hear anything now. It's cricket.
No, there's nothing. It's not a thing now at all. Like, but speak. The reason why I say mentors is because you need people and mentors who look like you, right? You need people who have been there, who've done it, who will serve as inspiration for you to see it's possible. Yeah. And who will speak life to you and you can't go on. Yeah. You are in an organization that does not have women in leadership who look like you. That is a very good sign that's a good sign to leave. I'm not even going to lie. That's a good sign to leave, right? Or, you can have mentors who do look like you, who, keep you going and stuff. You want to be able to see that what you're achieving or what you're attaining to, what you want to achieve or what you want to attain is possible, right? Yeah. And if they're not there within your division, within your department, even in your organization, maybe a professor of yours or whatever it is. But I think your network is very, very important. Having mentors.
Your circle, community. Yeah.
Not to keep bringing it back to therapy, but therapy is important.
Bring it back.
Therapy is important. I've had career counselors. Yeah. I'm very blessed and fortunate that in the organization I work for, we've always had leadership trainings and management trainings. And I participated in I will sign up for every training course there is. Like, I'm just that person. And as they're teaching how to deal with how to communicate effectively, how to deal with difficult employees, how to manage a team, how to high emotional intelligence. I signed up for every course. And as I'm signing up for the courses, I'm going back and I'm implementing it. Yeah. And in doing that, you know, I'm not the one to wait for anyone to do something for me. I don't know how to do. It's like within my right, learning, having the tools to be able to do better.
Yeah.
Conversations that make me feel seen.
Yeah.
Was very important for me, and very, 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 very important for me. That was a big part of anything, you know, prayer. I will pray first, take everything to God. I take everything to God.
We believe you.
Meetings, I take everything to God. And when I tell you,
that's good.
Who used to be there, who are not there, they got other.
Come on, God will remove.
When I said God be removing people,
He will remove people.
God be embarrassing people.
Man, I've seen it too. I've seen it.
I have challenged people in meetings who have come back to apologize to me.
Come on.
When I say like older white men who like don't bend backwards, but when you know you're right, you know you're right. And you respectfully, always be respectful. Respectfully challenge the status quo, you respect. And as that happens, that happens, like people talk about it. And I'm like, don't mess with me. People know not to mess with me. They're always they're always like agents of the devil everywhere now and again, where it's like God
humble them.
Life be lifing, but you know, when you have the God you have, when you have the God, you're like Jesus, okay, like you suck. You just watch God.
Yeah, and I love how the common theme in everything you said was accountability. Like, you know, you still have to be self-accountable, right? Maybe things aren't going well, you know, and you do have, you know, different triggers and things that are coming up in the workplace. But you still have to do the things to hold yourself accountable, to either get a mentor, talk to somebody, go into therapy, you know, figure out if you need to change jobs, if it's not good for your mental health. And that's what I always tell people. I was just telling someone, I think just last week, like your mental wellness is the top priority. Like, you can find a job that pays you well. You know, you're comfortable, you can take care of your family, but you're miserable and you're not fulfilled. That's at the end of the day, you're just going to burn out and nobody's going to be happy. Right. So your mental health is the most important. Right. Yeah, and you have to be accountable to do the things and take the steps that you need to take to make sure that you can stay on top of that, especially if you're having workplace trauma, because that's a real thing, right? That people do deal with.
And I do want to emphasize that this is for people who are doing the work, right? If you're not showing up to work, you're not doing the work to get you to do what you were hired to do as a chore, to get you to show up. You're
not disciplined. You need to be disciplined.
You're not doing anything. Like, please ignore what I said, because you're just at that point, you're a complainer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I like, don't bother your mentors. Don't bother your friends. Don't be that person who is always venting and has a show for it. Like, go to my mentors. I'm not going for a venting session. I'm giving them the scenario. Like, this is exactly what it is. And I'm going there transparent. Like, this is what I did and this is what I didn't do. Right. Yes. And a lot of times, my mentors have ripped me a new one. Like, you know, like, Oby, you know better. Oby.
Wow.
But it's, you know better. And okay, I do. This is how I'm going to show up better next time. When I do show up better next time, I let them know so that they're aware that I'm not taking their feedback for granted. I'm implementing what they teach me, because the worst thing you can do is make someone feel like they're wasting their time by pouring into you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
No.
And the therapist you pay for, like, you know, time is the only thing we cannot get back. Who wants to feel like they waste their time when they pour into you. The reason why I have the best mentors is because I'm a great mentee.
Come on, speak on it.
No, I'm a great mentee. Like, I will put the words into action. I do the doings, right? I do the work so that they know they're not wasting their time on me, because if they feel like it, don't underestimate the access you have to people, because card could be revoked at any time and you will feel it.
Yes. And I think that also speaks to like being what you're wanting, right? A lot of us, we talk about, oh, I want this type of partner. I want this type of job. I want this type of position. I want to live this type of life.
Yep.
Are you being what you're being what you're asking for, right? So we have to be prepared for that.
And that goes back to accountability, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I cannot demand what I'm not, right? I cannot.
Exactly.
I'm not. I cannot ask. You're absolutely right. It goes back to accountability, but it goes back to a quote I saw on Instagram, and it says, "God cannot bless who you pretend to be." Right?
Come on, that's true.
And that really like resonated with me, because in life, like, you can only package and pretend to be something for so long, and you can pretend, and you can live your life pretending to be this perfect person for so long before it catches up, and it always will catch up.
It'll always catch up.
If you are blessed, it will catch up with you while you're still alive, so you can home and like, get realigned with God and do better. Worst scenario that you deal with it in hell. I'm a Christian. I believe in heaven and hell. We experience hell on earth. Experience it. I don't want to experience the real hell, because my hell is not on earth or not it. So I don't want to ever have to experience real hell. Like, even on hot days, like as you guys have seen, I'm sweating.
It's hot over here too.
God forbid, yo. God forbid. Hey, God forbid. God forbid. So please, let's all do better so we can. All of this is really so we can meet our maker at the end of the day and be like, hey, God. I know I messed up.
Oh my God.
Like, God, I know I messed up a few times, but God, you know I did the best I could. And then God will be like, you know what, baby girl, you're right. Oh, yeah, come. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We live our best life.
That's true. Oh my goodness.
Glorify God through earth. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, Oby, this has been such a great conversation.
Thank you. I had such a blast. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. And to everyone like watching and listening, like I know you feel like that too. It feels like it's just me and her talking, but we're here with y'all. Like, this is just how we talk.
Yeah, no, seriously.
And I know y'all are laughing with us. I do have one last question I'd like to ask everyone, just because I'm over here laughing, crying.
It's a good thing.
Oh my gosh. That I ask everyone, just because like I said before, I value people's journeys and testimonies. And that's what this whole season is about. This whole season is focused on highlighting, people's mental wellness journeys. And then more specifically, like their personal like testimony, just because it's so important to me, especially in the last few years of just thinking about my own like personal journey and testimony, and just how, people really, we assume a lot, right? In terms of like when we see people and just how they are, the type of things that they're doing, we kind of assume that, they're fine. They got it all together and, they're whatever, but we don't know the journey that it took for them to get there, and also probably the journey that they're still going through, because life in itself is just a journey, right? So I ask everyone, just like, what's one word that you would use to describe your personal testimony and journey, and why?
That's a great question. Can I start off with that? Like, that's a fun question. One word that I would use to describe my personal journey and why. I think perseverance is I know that I will live to see the goodness of God in the land of living. Not because of anything that has to do with me, but just because of the grace of God. Like, if I got nothing from reading the Bible or nothing from my relationship with God, like, I know God has good in me, good for me. Like, I know the best is yet to come. Like, I know my latter days are going to be better than my former days. Like, with full conviction, without a doubt in my mind.
Wow.
But I have to continue to persevere. I have to continue to show up. I have to continue to do my best. I have to do my best. I have to give God something to bless, right?
Come on. Yeah.
Not that I'm giving God anything. Like, it's not a transactional thing that, okay,
Yeah.
if I fast this amount of time or if I do this amount of things and then God, I have to persevere. I set out to pay off my credit cards, my debt. I set that out. I was still making the salary I was making at the time.
Wow.
I still had the responsibilities. Like life lifed, right? I can tell you, I'm not lying. Or even forget lifing, right? I know what I like. Zara was Zara. Like, I told you guys so many times, I love shopping this is from Zara. I can't say Zara was still open at the time. I did not know.
It's still open.
It's still open. But I did not know there would be a pandemic that would truly help. I saved them going to the train. I was eating. I wasn't going into work. I was eating from, like, I didn't know.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know any of that. And you have good intentions. I know I have good intentions. I'm not perfect, but Jesus knows my heart.
Yeah.
It's the ball all the time, but Jesus knows my heart. And the way that God cleared things off, I don't say the way I paid. I didn't pay off anything. It's by the grace of God that I will get a phone call or receive a text that something will require money. I would have to, the savings I didn't even have, the $2 I was putting in savings, I had to take that out and still were able to meet. That wasn't me. That was God. But I had to persevere through it. Yeah. To show up.
Yeah.
That's with everything, right?
Yeah.
On the matter, I don't know what I'm doing. There are people who I'm responsible for. I supervise people. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a parent. I don't know anything, right? But I know if I continue to show up, I continue to try my best, if I continue to persevere, God will bless it. Like, yes, God is going to be a testimony. Like, wow, be testimonies, because that's how my God is set up. Yeah, I cannot not pray. I cannot. Sometimes I pray rolling my eyes. There are days where I don't know if you guys have heard about the Alleluia Challenge. It's a praise and worship, devotional that happens weeks at a time. There were some times when I'm doing it and I'm rolling my eyes like, but by the end of it is, should I? By the end of it, I'm always glad I did it. Yeah. But I wake up, I'm like, God, please, work out to today. But I have to persevere as a human. Yeah. So that my Heavenly Father, really, so that I will feel worthy of the blessings that I know that I'm not worthy of, that God is bringing. So perseverance, if there had to be a word, that's such a great question.
I know we're not even in the same room, and I can feel, I guess being the person that I am, just my personality, I tend to feel people's emotions a lot. Yeah. Like I can feel it's like visceral right now. Like I have goosebumps, like just from you describing. Yeah,
I did. That's a great question. And even the response is the grace of God. Because I know, like, I know in real life,
this grace of God will never tire out.
No, because it really is. I'm not even gonna lie.
Hey, you're supposed to say amen.
God, amen. I'm not going to lie. It's all packaging. When people see me and I read my resume to my sister earlier today, and I was like, oh wow, none of this is either. It's all the grace of God.
Oh my God. It is. It really is. Like all of us, it's the grace of God. It's the grace of God. Like God's grace is something you can't really try to explain or wrap your head around, because it's inexplainable, but it's also what makes our lives the beautiful, things that it is, right? Absolutely. And everything you just said made me think about the quote from the book Circle Maker. Have you read that book? He said, pray like it depends on God, but work like it depends on you. That quote would never leave me. And there was also a pastor that said that God makes our natural supernatural, right? So it's, right? It's everything you just described. I feel like this whole conversation, just kind of encapsulates that. Thank you so much, Oby. Like me and Oby, we can literally sit on here and just keep talking. We probably are after I stop recording. But I don't want to keep y'all too long because we're just having a good time.
Yes.
And I know that everyone that has tuned in to this episode, I know you've gotten something out of this. Like there's no doubt in my mind because I got so much out of this conversation. Please leave any comments, in the comments that's there. And also like if you have any questions for us, if you want a part 2 of this conversation,
just let me know when.
Let us know because I feel like there was just so much here that we unpacked and talked about that there's still more to unpack. But just want to thank everyone for tuning in and for always supporting, always being here. Like Oby said, she's a part of this community. And that's really one thing that I hope to keep doing is like people that are part of this community, because Uprooted is a movement. So, just having the faces, right? It's intentional that it's called Uprooted Community because there are faces behind, the follows and the likes, comments, right? And getting all of your voices here, that's really, really important to me. So again, leave your comments, leave your questions. Thank you so, so much, Oby, for being here. Please tell everybody where to follow you, please. And make sure it's clear. And I also have it in the description of this video, but say it here because they must follow you. They must listen. In Jesus' name.
Amen. So if you liked this conversation, if you didn't like it, don't worry. Just forget you ever saw me. But
if you didn't like it, something's wrong. Go check yourself.
No, but if you liked this conversation, because I don't need trolls on my page.
That's true.
I take things to heart. I don't want to carry another set of therapists and be like, see what they wrote about me. But if you enjoyed this conversation, I am available on Instagram. I use Instagram. I have a Twitter account. I'm available on social media at On The Matter. And Matter is spelled with 2 R's. So it's ONTHEMATTERR. And I'm available on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I have a TikTok account that...
You have TikTok?
Girl, let me tell you.
What are you TikToking?
I'm not on TikTok. Because I can't remember.
What are you TikToking?
So let me tell you. I tell you when people tell me to do stuff, I do it. I had to create these. Because it's called virtual real estate. I had to create On a Matter like virtual real estate everywhere. So on TikTok, I put up affirmations, and those people actually record myself giving the affirmations. I stopped shower, and as soon as I said it, I was like, yeah, I need to start doing that again. But I used to have video recordings of my affirmations that people were.
Oh yeah, you posted on your stories on Instagram.
Yes,
and we will repeat after you. We're waiting for it. Come back.
Like I said, I'm getting back into all these things. I took a 4-month vacation that I didn't.
That's okay.
4 months, but it's happening.
That's okay. You go at your own pace, right?
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Oby. I really appreciate it. And we'll be back again with another episode. Take care. Hey community, thank you so much for tuning into the episode today. I know that you got something out of it, so don't forget to leave all your comments, questions, and reflections from the episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe as we continue to build this community together. And also turn on your notifications so that you know when every episode drops. Thank you all so much again, and until we meet again, continue to be well, do well, and live well.